Yeah, I think the main thing is just, keep showing up, trust that, we're all here for a reason, for good reason. And I know that sometimes it can feel sticky or strange or odd, or, even myself, I have moments where I'm like, why am I here? Right. But there's a reason. And I think we were all chosen to be. And if that's the case, then acknowledge that and honor that and realize you are a chosen one. You are here on purpose, for a purpose, and just trust the process and recognize that this life is about evolving, not having all the answers, not being always perfect, but just letting yourself evolve with the process and see how it all comes together, because that's kind of the best part.
Welcome back, Ketamine Connections. I'm Anna Krishtal. I say it every time. I'm so happy you're here. This week, we are kicking off a series of episodes that are going to be sprinkled throughout the show that I'm really excited about, because you have been asking for more topics about integration. What is integration? How do you integrate all of these topics? And so, the ketamine preparation course is out. It's live. Please have a look. The link is in the show notes. And the integration piece will be getting built out with time, especially as there's more interest. So if you're interested, definitely shoot me a note, either fan mail or to my email, to let me know that this is something you're interested in. And I'm just going to start bringing people on the show that I know can bring topics around integration. And so this week's episode with Danielle Mercurio is the first one. Is the first sort of topic around integration. And gosh, what can I say? Well, let me get this part out of the way, guys. The internet gods were not on our side during this episode. There were glitches, there were freezes, there were all sorts of things that even had me in the episode ask if Mercury was in the microwave, which is a joke, saying if Mercury was in retrograde, which is a common known theme of creating tech glitches. It's not, it wasn't. And thank you for bearing with this episode. And we really wanted to get to the topic. We really were committed to getting this show out to you. So it's not going to be a perfect recording. And I just want to say thanks in advance for, letting me be human and you being human with me. We're just out here living the human experience together. So Danielle Mercurio is an astrologer that I've been following for eons, ages and ages. I've been on her email newsletter. I've watched her growth. I've watched her sort of be on a path that she's walking that really has taken her to become the founder of Golden Age AI. So she's not just an astrologer. She is also a futurist, an intuitive channel, and honestly, one of the most badass people that I've ever met, who embodies truth, who preaches truth, and who is an expression of truth. And that is, what integration is really about. Integration is, to make whole. And so when you go through ketamine, you're going to experience different truths, right? Because there are multiple truths, and that is just a reality of living multiple truths. And so as you begin to integrate, you begin to make other truths other than the one that you've been living that's created the reality that you're in. You're bringing that into your truth, and you're changing your existence through that integration process. And astrology, it's been labeled woo, it's been labeled, esoteric, whatever you want to call it. I'm here for it. I don't really care, because here's the truth that I believe about astrology is that I believe it's like a weather report, right? And the weather report's like, hey, if it's raining outside, I get to make a choice. Do I bring an umbrella? Do I wear a raincoat? Do I just keep my butt inside because I don't feel like dealing with the rain that day? And that's how I feel about astrology. There's so many themes in astrology. So let's just start with one of the themes that we talked about in the episode. We talked about knowing your astrology. A lot of us know our sun sign, but there's other signs. And so as you get to learn the other planets, the other signs, we get into all of this in the episode, then you get a scope on yourself, and you get to kind of explore that and decide like, oh, that does resonate, that doesn't resonate. There's no fated here because we live in the realm of free will. And we talk about that in the episode as well. But it's just, it's a way to figure out what elements to balance, right? If I know that I'm super fiery and that I'm super impulsive and that I'm super whatever else that fiery energy brings, that doesn't mean I'm fated to be that way. It's just like, okay, I create systems, I integrate ways of being into my life that slow me down, that bring more space in. And so that is what we talk about in this episode, is knowing parts of your chart so that you get to know parts of yourself, and you always get to decide like, oh, that resonates and oh, that doesn't. That's one element of astrology. The other element of astrology that I've been using for years is to get the weather report, right? If Mercury is in retrograde, that means tech glitches. It means it's probably not a time to sign contracts. It probably means all of that. Does that mean I don't do it? No. I still do that stuff, but I do it with that in mind, that it might be more complicated, that I might need more time. Same thing, we talk about some of the astrology that is coming up in the spring here. And so we talk about that. And so I'm looking at, okay, Uranus or Uranus, however you want to say it, is doing this thing. And astrology says, here are the themes. Okay. Are those themes relevant to my life? Are there journal questions that I could sit with that would, help me find insight into myself? And same thing with literally any transit, right? It's like, oh, this planet is doing this thing, which brings about these themes. Let me sit with it. Let me feel into what's true for me. And I've been doing this for years, and without fail, there's usually a little golden nugget of truth. And that's also where I am in my journey, in that I'm not looking for the panacea. I'm not looking for the one, earth shattering truth. Like, I'm looking for these golden nuggets, these little breadcrumbs that are leading me closer and closer, because the truth is, the things that I know now, I needed to learn in stages, right? And it's the same with everything. We reveal truth in stages. We learn in stages. And so that is the gift of astrology, is that it gives you a roadmap. It gives you a framework to learn about yourself, learn about the collective consciousness, and really tap into your free will of like, okay, this thing is happening. Do I want to subscribe to it? Do I want to balance it? And also just, really tapping into, according to your level of belief of like, okay, well, the moon is going to be full, and there's a lot of like 3D data that says, oh, when the moon is full, there's more ER visits, there's more police or 911 calls, there's more of this and that. Okay, you believe in coincidence? Great. I believe in synchronicities, which is different. Synchronicities are, again, those breadcrumbs that lead us to truth, that lead us to an energetic, higher power, whatever that resonates with you. So anyways, this episode is about how you can use astrology for psychedelic integration. It's about knowing your top 3 planets, your sun, moon, and rising, so that you get to know yourself better. And we talk about other planets as well, give you a really basic rundown on that, and really leaning into that cosmic blueprint as a way to get to know yourself better, whether you subscribe to it or not, right? There's so much there for you. We also talk about the transits that are coming up this spring, which is, again, that planetary weather. And we're not talking about predicting the future, but rather a way to respond from a place of empowerment, from a place of autonomy and sovereignty, and from a place of, again, knowing the weather and deciding, you know what, I am going to grab my umbrella today. So if you've been curious about integration tools, astrology is one that I really lean on. I really enjoy. And I hope you get something out of this episode. As always, come in with an open mind, an open heart, and know that if you're being called to listen, there's something here for you. And again, if you're preparing for ketamine and you want to check the show notes, the ketamine preparation protocol, there's something there for you too. So if you've been curious about it, go ahead and get into it. There's a special bonus that is running that expires on Friday, May 3rd, which is right after this episode releases. So be sure to check that out. I would love to see you in there. I've poured so much of myself and my work and everything that I've been doing since 2021 into this program. And it would just be my honor to see you in there so that we can navigate this together. All right. Enjoy the show. A lot of listeners of this show are new to ketamine. And honestly, if that's you and you're anxious or just someone who likes to feel prepared, then you know that ketamine can be beautiful and it can also be overwhelming. Most clinics will not tell you this, but preparing for ketamine is what turns a confusing, chaotic trip into a grounded, life-changing experience. The ketamine preparation protocol is your go-to guide to walk you through that door with confidence. I've used this exact framework with clients since 2021 to help you feel safe, supported, and ready. And the feedback is always the same. I'm so glad I had this before my first journey. So whether you've already started ketamine or you're about to, if you're wondering, what if I do it wrong? Just don't wonder, prepare. Head to the link in the show notes and get started with the ketamine preparation protocol so that you can get the transformation that you deserve. Danielle Mercurio, welcome to Ketamine Connections.
Hi, love. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. As you know, we start every interview on the show with the same question. If you can go back and tell the you before you started all this anything, what would you say to her?
Be consistent. Be consistent because you have a lot of great ideas. You're a natural when it comes to speaking your voice and what you're passionate about. We just really want you to do it a little more consistently and a little bit more thoroughly before you move on to the next thing. Let the seeds you plant grow. And then once that garden feels complete, move on to build the next one.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to planting a lot of seeds everywhere and having no idea where all your gardens are.
That sounds about right. Yeah. And as you know, this, the theme of this episode is how to use different integration tools, right? So when you're talking about consistency, I really think about the tools that I teach for integration work and how, like mastery, right? Like there's this quote that comes to mind, like, don't do it until you get it right. Do it until you can't get it wrong. And that comes with consistency.
Mm-hmm. It does. And it also, I think consistency gives you greater range to understand yourself, right? If you keep showing up for something, then eventually you're going to start to see more layers from within it come through. And sometimes when we rush or we just move on from one thing to the next, did we really get the full experience? Or did we actually just move through the highlight reel?
The highlight. Oh, we love a highlight reel. We love a montage. We love a highlight reel. We love skip to the ending. Let me know how this all goes.
Spoiler alerts.
All of that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so funny because one of the things that we might talk about today, and maybe as I mention it, we will, astrology. I'm the most amateur astrologer I'll ever meet in my life. And the way that I like to learn astrology is that, every year in the season that we're in, okay, let me learn a little bit more about Aries right now, right? We're in Aries season at the time of this recording. Let me learn a little bit more about the light element, the shadow element, and things like that. And it's that consistency over time of every year now for probably a decade, which is why I'm so amateur, because I'm just I got one shot every year to learn about each side.
It's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, could you say more about that?
Sure. So, the one thing with astrology, luckily, I think with the internet, with technology, astrology has grown a lot because there's a lot more awareness around it. So people are starting to realize, oh, maybe I'm more than just my sun sign, right? Because I think before with astrology, it was just oh, I was born today, April 18th, therefore I am an Aries. And that's it. Where now we're starting to see, oh, but maybe I am also a moon in, I don't know what the moon's in today, but let's say a moon in Capricorn, and I am a Mercury in Pisces. And so we're starting to realize, oh, there's a lot more to this. And so in realizing that we are more than just one sign, then wouldn't it be beneficial to learn all 12 signs? And also in learning all 12 signs, doesn't that then connect us with each other even more as well, which is actually the point of astrology. Sometimes astrology is portrayed in such a way where it separates us. Well, I'm a Leo and you're, a Gemini and and it's no, that's not actually the point. It's we're sharing a part of who we are when we took our first breath. And I'd like to share that with you, because in sharing that with you, you may understand me a little bit better. And that would feel really good. And so when we start to look at it from that perspective, we realize we're in this all together. Astrology is a wheel. It's a circle. It's a 360-degree circle. It's not 12 lines that just poke out and just kind of go their own way. They're all connected. And so when we start to realize that the signs are all connected and they're all a part of us and all a part of each other, then it is beneficial to sit down and learn all of them and not just that one sign that you identify with.
Which also, when I take the time, Leo is probably the most abrasive sign for me to have learned about. I'm good now. But in the past, when I had trouble with my own self-expression, when I had trouble with my own bigness, with owning my desires, with like that expressive piece, Leo is a sign that is very expressive, very owning of their power. But the point is like, if I learn about you as a Leo, I'm actually learning about myself as well.
Exactly. It always goes both ways, even when you don't think so. And it is fascinating what signs trigger us the most, because there's a lot of medicine in those.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also getting into that element of, right, like we live in a hall of mirrors where everything is just mirroring everything back. And so it's like, oh, I see a Leo just like speaking their truth front and center on stage, first person up on open mic. And I'm just like, oh, I hate that. But it's really like, I hate that I don't let myself do that.
Right. And so then how can you lean into that Leo a little bit and let yourself have that too?
Exactly. Right. Or if I can't for whatever reason, or I'm telling myself a story that I can't, well, I could be like, well, look, Danielle does it. Let me just like channel it from her Leo energy. Let me just like borrow that element from her. Yeah, it's so funny to me because I work with a lot of people, and most people that I work with are not super woo, not super spiritual, very just like starting to get into that. And I have other theories about how ketamine is kind of like a fast track into that, because it like makes so little sense. Once you get into the psychedelic model of healing and all of that. And yet, top three, right? In astrology, we talk about the top three, the sun, moon, rising. And when I look at someone's top three, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And they just go, what? Yeah. And they're like, no, I'm just a Leo. Oh, I'm just a Scorpio. I'm just a whatever. It's just like, no, actually there's more. And they go, oh, they lean in and they get really curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. With the cosmos, it's like a game show, but wait, there's more. You don't get to just be an Aquarius. You also get to be this and that. And so for anyone that's very new to astrology, essentially where all this comes from is we go back to this idea of, okay, when did your soul decide to come here? When did it decide to be a human and incarnate here on Earth and do the Earth journey? And so it was decided when you come here that there would be clues, right? There'd be clues along the way. And one of the clues that was created was under the framework of what is known as astrology. And we're talking mainly about Western astrology here. We live in a Western society, so Western astrology seems to connect the most in that way. So when we refer to astrology in this context, more so Western, because we do live in a Western society. So the planetary alignment connects with that. So essentially, when you take that first breath, when you take that moment where you enter into the world, I do believe that is soul decided. Even if you're like, people say, I was a C-section, I was late, great. You still took your first breath exactly when you were meant to. So once we trust in that intel, what we do is we take that time, right? That's why astrologers always will say, we need your time of birth. Ask your mom. Some places you can actually call your hospital if you don't have your birth certificate and get it that way. It's a little tip. So then once you have your time and your date of birth and your location, what we're doing is we're looking to see, okay, where were the planets in relationship to this thing known as the zodiac wheel? So we had discussed the zodiac wheel is a 360-degree wheel, circle. I'd like to think of it as a game board. And we imagine that all 12 signs make up this game board. Starts with Aries, the season we're in right now, kicks off with spring, and moves all the way to Pisces, okay, last sign of the zodiac. So these 12 signs live underneath our planets. And then the planets move around the game board like little pieces. So the moment that you take your first breath, what we're doing is we're taking a screenshot. And we're saying, okay, what planets were on top of what signs? What planets were on this game board? And we kind of like smush it all down, and that becomes your natal chart or your birth chart. And so then we say, okay, this person was born on this day. The sun was in Aries. The moon was in Capricorn. Mercury happens to be hanging out in Pisces. Oh, look, Jupiter was in Sagittarius, whatever it may be. So then we're saying like, wow, we're not just one sign. We're not just what is known as the sun sign. The sun sign is the one that like, okay, what day were you born? And the reason is who were you when the sun was out? The sun is more masculine. The sun is more, the core of who we are. So that's why our society kind of was programmed for that first. So that's our sun sign. We look for that first because that's who are we by day. And then we start to keep digging through the list now that we have all these pairings of signs and planets. And we go, okay, what's next? The moon. Well, if the sun sign is who we are by day, then the moon sign must be who we are by
night and alone, by myself, the parts that nobody sees.
Exactly. Who are you behind closed doors, which may be different than who you are during the day, right? Or even, maybe it's when you're alone, but it could be when you're with a loved one. Like some of us don't spend time with our partners during the day. We spend time with them at night, right? So we start to kind of look at the differences just from that right there. And we can already see, wow, there's a lot of intel. If my sun is in Aries and my moon is in Capricorn, that's going to give me a lot of perspective of how I'm showing up for my life. And then also who am I when I am by myself, when the lights are off, when things are a little bit darker, right? The moon is more about that. And then the rising sign, which is the other like big one, we didn't technically talk about. So the rising sign is created based on where the sun was along the horizon when you were born. And so it relates to where on the horizon was it? And then when we kind of put that into the wheel, what sign does that hit, right? So the same person, they could see that the rising sign, the sun was rising, the ascendant was on, let's say, Scorpio. So then they would be an Aries sun, Capricorn moon, Scorpio rising. And the rising sign is the first impression that you give people, which is a beautiful thing to know about because a lot of times people just think, oh, well, people must just think I'm an Aries, must just think I'm this. And I'm like, actually, you lead without realizing it with your rising. So if you have that intel, how do you want to use that accordingly? And then the rising sign also becomes the first house. And then there are 12 houses, and houses are kind of different themes that we experience as part of being a human. So that's kind of like the breakdown.
Right. Which is also so helpful to know that there's, for example, right, it's like those 12 planets, they all rule different elements of our personality, right? So it's like your communication skills, your Venus sign, how you love, how you show up in romance, your, like all, how you deal with transformation, how you deal with all of these different things. And so it helps you get the full scope because you can't just be one thing.
No, as much as society will tell you.
Right. And I've dated those people that are just like, oh, I'm just an Aries. Like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, bro, there's 11 other planets.
That's an excuse. Yeah. I don't buy that anymore when people say that, oh, I'm just a this. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're just an opportunity to expand.
Exactly. Right. And that's what I think about too, is just like, it's, the concept of know thyself. Right. And so it's like, okay, I know that as an Aries, right? If I were an Aries, I'm not, I'm a Gemini. Thank you for remembering that. I'm very proud of that, as most Geminis are. But if I was, for example, an Aries, right, it's just like, okay, I know I have a propensity to, as the first sign of the zodiac, I have a propensity to be a little bit more self-centered. I know I have a propensity to just like kind of bulldoze other people's feelings because I'm the baby of the zodiac and nobody existed before me, right? And so it's like, cool, that's my disposition. How could I balance that with other practices? And also know that maybe I am that way this way, but look at my other signs or my other planets and then notice that actually I'm a real softie over here.
Yeah. And then you realize you have a whole portfolio.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about archetypes at the end of the day. We're talking about, so for archetypes, for people that might not know what it is, it's just like themes. Right. It's just, so these are themes and we're not fated. It's like, okay, maybe this is the card that you're dealt or the hand that you're dealt, but how are you going to play those cards?
Exactly. It's all about awareness. And then it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with it.
Like with anything, right? It's just like, and that's what we get into when we start talking about psychedelics and we start talking about, uncovering, right? One of my favorite quotes, Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And it's so many people are walking around in these dense emotional states of depression, anxiety, PTSD, the top 3 that ketamine is being used for in the country right now. And it's these dense states. It's just like, oh, I'm just fated to be depressed. I'm just fated to be anxious. I'm just fated to ruminate on the past, when actually there is a way out of that to cast light onto the shadow. And then same thing with astrology of just like, oh, my natural state is this. How do I want to show up in the world? And how can I bring more balance to that? How can I actually use tools and resource to myself to not just be whatever the stars say I'm fated to be?
Exactly. And you can uncover beautiful things that you didn't even realize. Like, whoa, I forgot, like, I always kind of felt like I had a gift in that, or I always felt like I was a writer, but no one ever said I was, or never had any guidance to do so. And now I'm like reading my chart and I'm realizing, oh, writing is one of the things that I'm really good at. Oh, that's cool. And it like gives you permission to lean in a little bit more where maybe sometimes we're resistant.
Right. I had the same thing happen in my life. Years ago, I've been coaching and doing hypnosis work for years before I switched to ketamine coaching. And it was like 2 years into ketamine coaching where I was just like, I'm not really a coach. I'm more of an educator. And it's like, I have like 4 placements in Gemini. We are like the teachers of the zodiac, right? It's like,
You're the communicators.
yeah, communication, like all of that just like makes so much more sense what I'm doing now, knowing that that is my nature and I get to nurture my nature as well.
Yeah, it just gives you a little extra reassurance. And then you get like a boost of confidence because you're like, oh no, I was literally born to do this.
Exactly. And that's what kind of the conversation I wanted to bring forth with, astrology for psychedelic integration. So we have, we're talking beautifully about like, get to know your chart, right? Like get to know the 12 signs, get to know, and there's more too, right? Like with Chiron and North Node, South Node, like there's so much there to unpack.
Retrograde, bring it all in.
Right. Yeah. And oh gosh, yes, absolutely. Like I learned that I was born on a full moon. That's significant.
It is significant. So you're a Sag moon?
Correct. So I'm actually more obnoxious by myself than I am out in the world, if you can believe it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Note to self: hang out with you by day.
Exactly. But with astrology, right? We also have the transits. We have the things, transits being the things that the planets are doing right now, right? We're talking about the snapshot of like, here's what happened in the sky when you were born and your soul chose to incarnate these qualities for a reason. And I always like to say too that, you have your gifts, like you have the things that like not all of us are meant to work on everything in this life. For some people, romance comes easy, money is harder. For some people, career is easy, whatever, right? So it's like we have the things that we're good at, and then we have the things that we get to work on. But that's the snapshot of what the sky was doing when you were born, and your soul decided that. And well, it's however many years later since you've been born, and now the sky's doing something else, and that's interacting with your chart as well.
Exactly. So what we're doing is we talked about this earlier, the idea of it being weather, right? The way that you check the weather to figure out, okay, what's this weekend going to be like? We're taking a trip to the beach. I want to know if it's going to rain or not, right? I want to know if it's going to be freezing. And why? Well, it's going to, contribute to how you prepare and how your experience is going to be based on the weather. It's just part of it. But we also know, like, okay, let's say you do go to the beach and it winds up raining the whole time. Well, it's kind of a bummer, but at least you're prepared and you can still have a great experience. And that's kind of how we look at the transits as well. So the transits are looking at what is the current planetary forecast, and based on where the planets are today, how does that relate to the way that the planets are embedded in you from the day you were born. So we're looking to see, and some transits may literally not affect you at all based on the placement of your chart, based on the placement in the sky. Some transits may literally feel like they are right on top of you. And when that's happening, a lot of times people think it's bad, they're being punished. And it's like, no. The planets are pressing on you. That's the number one thing I hear. Is that bad? Oh no. I won't even, like, I'll literally be like, oh yeah, there's an eclipse coming up. Like, I didn't even say anything else yet. Like, as soon as you hear the word retrograde, people like run for the hills.
Sky Daddy doesn't hate you.
No. But it wants to teach you a lesson.
Exactly.
Right? Because it knows when you're good and you learn your lessons, what do you get? Rewarded.
Right.
The planetary positions are set up in patterns. And so that's why they don't all hit you at once, right? Like that would be a lot. And that's why like most, so usually like the planets are kind of peppered in and out throughout your chart, your life, your experience. Like some things are kind of landing, some aren't at all. It just depends, right? Like today, you and I are talking real time. Mars finally moved into Leo after hanging out in my 12th house in Cancer for months. And I am so ready for that shift. Other people may not affect them at all, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at the weather report, we're looking at the transits, seeing what's going on, and then we're just flushing it up with our own map. And we're saying, okay, based on my chart, based on today's chart or this week's chart or this month's chart, here's what could happen. And here's where, yeah, maybe I am getting some pressure because the planets here are showing me I'm not fully living up to my potential. I'm ignoring my purpose. I'm choosing to stay in a relationship that is not serving me. So what is it going to keep doing? It's going to keep knocking on your door. You sure still want to be with that person? You sure still want to be with that person? You sure you don't want to be single for a little bit? And it'll just keep knocking and knocking until finally you're like, all right, I'll answer the door. And when I answer the door, I'll let them out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so interesting too. I remember learning in one of the few classes that I took that about astrology, like just noting that the planets have their own personalities, the way that we have our own personalities, right? And certain planets are like, oh, I really like being over here, right? Like I love being in the mountains. Some people like the beach, right? So planets are like, oh, I really like it when I move through here and that feels comfortable and I'm going to express comfort. Other times, I don't like being at the beach. I don't like all the sand. I don't like, all of that. And so, I mean, I do like the beach, but the planet doesn't. And then it's like, I'm going to express that discomfort and I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it because I don't like being here. And it's going to bring up all the themes of like the things that you as a person are also working on that are related.
Exactly. Yeah. And that like ties into the elements, right? Every planet and sign have elements that they work with as well. So that's why like, Taurus may be more connected to the mountains because it's an earth sign. Whereas, someone that has an air sign might want to live in Chicago because it's the windy city and that's air, right? So that definitely can play into all of it too.
Well, let's talk about, we were talking about the transits, how we have, the weather forecast of the sky, right? So it's like we have that smush of like, here's what the sky was doing when my soul decided to incarnate. And then we also have okay, but what is it doing now? And how is it interacting? Like, do the planets like interacting with my planets right now, or are they bringing up things that I'm meant to deal with and move through? And that's how I like to use astrology. Is like I like to look at, right, you were just saying that there's some transits that you just went through where, was it Mars just did something? Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm like looking forward to the relief of that, right? So there's this element of free will that we get to bring into anything in life and say, okay, well, the stars are doing this. Is that relevant to my life? Do I agree with it? And whether I agree with it or not, is there something there for me to heal, to be with, to look at, to be honest about?
Exactly. I like to say like, lean into if something's resonating. Lean in, take a look under the hood. And if it doesn't, leave it. I've had times where people are like, they get so wound up about having to have a transit have meaning because it is positioned a certain way. And sometimes it just doesn't. And that's okay, right? It's like, again, like with the weather, they could say it's storming today and the storm never hits your house, but it gets the neighborhood a mile down. It doesn't, just because it's forecasted doesn't always mean it's going to land either. And if that's the case, don't force it.
And also, just because that theme is coming up, like what you were saying earlier, if you're healed through that, then there's nothing there for you to look at. It's like, oh, it's drudging up like, Mercury. For me, for a long time, Mercury was just like X's showing up. And then I changed my phone number and that doesn't happen anymore. So
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. There's also that I've outgrown this. Just because it's back around doesn't mean I have to regress to be able to be back in and participate.
And then there's an element of celebration that can come in of like, oh, I remember when this theme used to really affect me, when I remember that this used to bring up a lot, but I brought it up so much that it's all out. I don't have anything left to give this issue.
Totally. Or if you, I've had moments where I'll have a little twinge of it and then I'm able to feel it. And then I'm able to remember how I released it before and it's gone again.
Right. Which is also, in this work, we talk a lot about the spiral staircase of healing, right? So you're seeing the same theme, but now you're at, the 18th floor rather than the second floor, and you have a little bit more distance. You're seeing it from a different vantage point. You don't need to like get in there and just like observe it and look at it. You just be like, oh yeah, I remember that view. Moving on.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. So that's a great point as well.
So what are some tips that you would have for someone that's like new to astrology and is just like, how can this support me coming out of, ketamine and using this for integration?
Yeah, I think, just like we've been talking about, it's a great tool for self-awareness. So I would say just start by exploring your sun sign a little bit more and looking to see, like, when I look into it in a great site, you can do like astro.com, Cafe Astrology. I really like the Pattern app as well. You can also use ChatGPT and say, hey, I just moved through my ketamine therapy. Here are some things that came forth. My sun sign is in this, my moon sign is in this. What could that mean for me? What could that uncover? And just start to get curious. Don't feel like you have to, I'm still learning astrology and I've been learning it for 36 years. So it never ends. So don't feel like you have to master the planetary system or understand the entire zodiac system. However, get curious about some of the traits of your sun sign. Get curious about the moon. Get curious about your rising sign and ask yourself, based on my treatment, based on what I've just moved through, how do I want to use these qualities to help amplify where I'm going? How do I want to use these qualities to expand how I'm seen, how I'm heard, how I could be validated from here on out, how I could create boundaries? So start to look at the questions and the curiosities you have from your treatment, as well as your next steps, and then start to weave in the astrology to see how it can support you.
Yeah, and I feel like there needs to be caution with using ChatGPT for astrology because I've had this experience before where I'm like, oh, this thing's happening, tell me the thing, and then it's giving me the wrong dates, and then I'm sitting there going, wait, I thought it was these dates, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right, and like ChatGPT is like the subconscious mind; it's always going to say that we're right. So I know that you just released a guide that I'm really looking forward to. I bought it yesterday. I'm so looking forward to it on how to like be more accurate in using a chat for astrology.
Exactly. Yeah. So with AI, especially large language models like a ChatGPT or a Claude or Gemini, they are trained on language. They are trained on books. They are trained on us. They are not trained on time or data yet. I think there will be a day where they will, but for now, they're not. So that's why I even said in the example, I said, my sun is in this, my moon is in this. I didn't say this is the time I was born. So I'm glad that you called, you expanded that further. So if you are using ChatGPT, I do have a guide. It's called the Cosmic Code Interpreter. And so it's an easy way for you to use ChatGPT and astrology together. It's a 14-page guide that just takes you through the whole process. So what you're going to do, though, if you do anything with ChatGPT or any AI and astrology, you have to be specific. You have to either feed it your chart yourself, like literally line by line feed it, or just be very clear, using only my sun sign in Cancer, basing this just off my Venus being in Virgo. Tell me this. So either it's you put everything in and then you ask it to verify it, or you're just using this. Because what it's going to do is it's going to say, oh, I did something for someone the other day whose birthday was like a day before this person's. I bet their charts are the same. So then that's what it's doing. It's guessing your chart based on any astrology conversations it's had with other people. So it's creating a mashup based on the millions of users that have inputted their astrology, and it's guessing. But with astrology, and again, sometimes it can work, sometimes it doesn't, because some transits will stay in your chart for years, so it won't be off. But like the rising sign, that changes every 2 hours.
The rising sign changes every 2 hours.
Yes. So within one day, the sun will, because it's where the sun was.
Right, the horizon.
So what's happening is it's going to go through all 12 signs within that day. So 12 signs, 24 hours, every 2 hours it changes. The moon is going to change, every 48 hours ish. So if it's, those are probably the ones that it's going to quote unquote fail on the most, is the moon and the rising sign.
Okay. I've gotten pretty obsessed with like syncing my work to different things. Is it the same, the rising sign, is it the same sign every day? Like, is it like 2:00 is always Gemini o'clock? No, it's always different.
It's not always Gemini o'clock. Is it Gemini o'clock now? No. Great question. Because of degrees and because time isn't completely time is pretty linear. Like we have a linear calendar system, but it's not completely cookie cutter. So because of that, it's not the same every day. Like for example, your birthday when, you go to your birthday and you're like, it's my birth time, let me go look up my chart right now, the rising sign might be different.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? Like the rising sign may change over the years because of, our calendar system not being completely flushed. So like what we've done, I think the astrological calendar was different back in the day. Like I believe it started with spring. It's also believed that April 1st was actually the first day of the year. And that's why April Fools became what it became, because it's like, joke's on you. Today was actually the first day of the year, which would make a lot more sense because spring. And then again, the astrological calendar would sync up more so. Whereas the astrological calendar that we use in Western astrology is just doing its best to fit into the 365-day mold that we created. So because of that, it's not like super formatted, but that's actually a really great observation.
Yeah, because I know like in Ayurveda, for example, or even like traditional Chinese medicine, there's like different organs have different times of day, and that does stay consistent.
Yes, and that's stacked. But with the astrology, because it uses a degree system, it doesn't stay that tight, so to speak.
Okay. And so if we're talking about the weather report, right? And it's just like, okay, putting chat aside, because I tried to have a conversation with ChatGPT about the recent Mercury retrograde. And as soon as chat realizes my experience is as soon as chat realizes it's wrong, we're done. Because when I try to like correct it and then it's just like it overcorrects and then it's just like I need to let it go. So and I'm lucky to have like a variety of sources for astrology that I do have like some idea of what's going on. So when chat's like, oh, this transit ends on April 17th, and I'm like, I thought it was April 7th. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. But now it's overcorrecting. So for people looking at this, right, like listening to this conversation, you made the brilliant suggestion of like learn your top three, right? Just like, or get to know your sun sign better. I would say learn your top three because I think it gives you a more holistic just picture. If you know nothing else, know the top three. And then also you get to fit into every new age conversation ever. If you end up at a kava bar somewhere and someone says, what are your top three? You know what people are talking about. And then where can people go to get like the weather report and how to figure out what that is like with their chart?
Yes. So what I would recommend downloading the app is called Time Passages. Time Passages. It's a free app. And what it does is or at least the free, if you want to use the free version, you'll get every day it will show you exactly where the planets are. So like when we were talking, the moon was in Capricorn, but it's like, I was like, oh, I don't remember. I could just pull up Time Passages and it will tell me in this exact moment where all the planets are. And then adjacent to that, there's another little tab that has your chart and all of your placements. And so it's really easy to kind of bop back and forth between where the planets are today, where they were when you were born. And it will also show you connections between the two. Like, oh, hey, guess what? Jupiter is back in the sign that it was in when you were born. Here's why. So I like Time Passages a lot from a weather reporting perspective. The pattern is good too, but the pattern can be a little overwhelming if you're new to astrology. So that's why I like Time Passages. It's very clean.
Yeah. And so someone looks up their sun sign, they get to know that better. They go to Time Passages and they're like, okay, how is this interacting with the current weather report and things like that? And then, there's other things that go on as well. I mean, this year is wild for astrology and all of the planets that are switching signs and things like that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, as we know, the planets change sun signs every month, right? Every 30 days. Goes into a new one. In a couple of days, the sun's going to go into Taurus. That always happens. So we know that every year the sun will move through all 12 signs. Say Mama Moon, she moves a lot faster. We know that every month she moves through all 12 signs. And then the personal planets, which are Mercury, Venus, and Mars, for the most part will, Mercury for sure, Venus most likely, Mars kind of will move through all 12 signs within the year. But then we have some transits that literally won't move for decades. Okay. So, or won't move for a few years at a time. So when that happens, that creates a big collective shift, because if one planet was stationed in a sign for a certain amount of time, well, then we got used to that. For example, Pluto in 2008, Pluto moved into Capricorn. Just this past November, it finally officially moved into Aquarius. So from 2008 until the end of 2024, Pluto and Capricorn were together. That's a long stretch to have those two paired together, especially if it's not favorable for your chart, right? That's a long window. Now, what I will say, when a planet is in a sign for longer, it doesn't mean it's knocking you over the head the entire time. There's a range. There might be, talk to an astrologer. There's, depending on your degrees, there's certain windows that might be tighter than others. Like, it's not like, oh my, okay, well, sucks to be you for the next 15 years. But, or on the flip side, it doesn't mean that someone else has natural abundance because it's a good parent for 15 years. But it's something to look at. And then especially we look at it from a generational perspective. We're like, okay, well, what happened in 2008? As soon as Pluto moved into Capricorn, which is our planet or our sign of structure and money and career, what happened in 2008?
Financial, that's the year I graduated college. Can you imagine?
Oh, interesting. And that was like when I had my first full-time job, and I was like, wow, what is going on? Yeah. So, and Pluto is about risk, great change, disruption. So we saw immediately, as soon as Pluto and Capricorn hung out together, and then we saw that play out. And again, we saw there wasn't a recession every year, but we saw as it started to wrap up its journey, things got a little bit rocky again with that piece of things. And now that Pluto's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is more about innovation, technology, humanity, we're starting to see that that's really on the forefront. And we're starting to see the development of AI, but we're also seeing the development of like, all right, like, do we have each other's back here? Like, what's going on with our rights? What's going on with, how we're living? Are we taken care of? Are we safe? Are we seeing each other? Are we, that's really, and that's going to continue to play out until 2044. So those are the big ones work. So that was a big shift right there. Saturn, which is our planet of rules, leadership, discipline. A lot of people hear about the Saturn return. So basically, wherever Saturn was in your chart when you were born, it's going to pop up 2 to 3 more times in your life. Once, usually mid to late 20s, which we all know that quarter life crisis. What am I doing? How am I going to be an adult? I thought this was the love of my life and it's not. I thought I was going to live here forever and I'm not, right? Like it really kind of throws you into your purpose, really. And then it comes back around just before retirement, right? Like late 50s, early 60s, like, okay, I did this whole adulting thing. Now I'm kind of in the interesting wrap-up phase. What does this mean? I'm an empty nester. I'm getting a divorce. I'm leaving my job after this many years. So it creates that question. And then if you're still around, which, you probably will be, late 80s, early 90s is the third Saturn return. So that's a theme within your personal chart. And then collectively, Saturn moves every 3 years. So on May 24th, Saturn is going to be moving out of Pisces, where it's been for the last 3 years, and move into Aries, which I think is going to be a good thing for us. I love Pisces energy, but Pisces and Saturn's like about leadership and momentum and, doing the right thing, where Pisces is like, let's just hang out on the beach. Let's just flow. Let's just be creative. Let's be artists. And those energies clash. So I think Saturn with Aries, and Aries, as we were talking about, is like kind of like the Kickstarter. Let's go for it. Kind of like, I want what I want when I want it. I think that actually paired with Saturn will be better for us, because I think it's going to create a little bit more like, especially for entrepreneurs, like go for it, do it. Like you got this, like make it happen. So I think that's going to be a good shift for us. Another big shift that people are talking about is Neptune. After like 13 years, moved out of Pisces into Aries. So again, we're getting a lot of things kind of shifting out of that dreamy Pisces, which I think Neptune and Pisces were good together, because I think it awakened a lot more people and brought more spiritual modalities to light than ever before. If you think about it, like the last 13 years and the spiritual scene or wellness or psychology, anything that's kind of dealing with sense of self. I think it kind of brought all that to light. And now Neptune and Aries is going to be like, okay, can you monetize it? Can you make a career out of it? Which, can be good and bad, right? And we've kind of seen that, behind the scenes in some of the spiritual arenas, right? Like good-hearted people that maybe have a little bit of a narcissistic approach. That might but I think there's also more exposure around that and more awareness of like, oh, oh, this is a cult. Oh, okay. I'm out. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think it's also going to bring, though, in a beautiful way, more of like the work that you're doing, psychedelic treatment. I think it's going to bring it to more, let's say, everyday people. It's not just going to be exclusive to people that are like had to go on a seek it out, or had to go to the jungle, or had to, kind of go behind the scenes to do it. I do think it's actually going to bring more of this innovative treatment to the forefront, which I think could be really, really great. And get it in the right hands to move it forward in ways that, just again, get more people in the door, because they need to see that legitimacy,
Yeah, which is why I love ketamine, because of its access with legality more than anything. You don't need to fly to the jungle.
Exactly. And for some people that may be on the fence, they're like, oh, this is, I go to an actual office, or, oh, I can, it just, it can maybe create comfort for someone in a way that.
I think so. Yeah.
Me, I'd rather go to the jungle, but.
We're all different levels of adventurism,
Totally. And look, there's a time and a place, right? And my thing is like even playing ground. The more that we can just get things, a little bit of everything everywhere, chef's kiss. So there's that. And then what's another? Oh, and then one more big one this summer. Uranus. Yeah. Yeah,
Gemini. What do you
know about Uranus?
I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago that was talking about Uranus, shifting to Gemini. And it's like, wherever Gemini is in your chart, be careful. And I have 4 major placements in Gemini, including my sun and my rising. So I'm just like, all right, like get my seatbelt on, buckle in, like what's about to happen.
Yeah, you're just going to purposely be up people's butts.
I'm going to be purposely up people's butts?
Yeah, Uranus.
Well,
astrology humor.
It's like, we're talking butt stuff. Okay.
Uranus. No, but seriously, what Uranus is the pain in the ass planet, though. That is how I describe it, because it's about our nervous system.
Okay.
It's about change. It's about how do we deal with anxiety. And it's been stationed in Taurus, which I think has actually been a pretty good pairing, honestly, because Taurus is so grounding. So I think, it's been able to help us navigate change and do it in a way like, as long as you're grounded, you can get through this. With it moving into Gemini, it's going to be interesting, because Gemini is air. It is curious. It is our Alice in Wonderland and our Peter Pan. It is a little bit all over the place. And what I mean by that, Gemini, if you break it's known as the twins, but I think that's limiting. Gemini, when you break it down, is gem. What is it? What's a gem? A diamond. Oh, what's a diamond? Multifaceted. Gemini is actually a multifaceted archetype. And so now we're taking this multifaceted persona and we're pairing it with Uranus. And so I think what's going to happen is there's going to be more disruption and more change, and it's going to upset a lot of people, like the older generations or people that are stuck in their ways. They're not going to do well with it. But if you are a change maker, if you are ahead of the curve, if you see the future and you believe in it, then it is going to be a beautiful pairing.
Which is, I think, also the other theme that I'm seeing in the collective right now too, is the need, not the desire or the wishing or the wanting, the genuine need for good leadership, right? For leaders, because what I think is a gift of Gemini from the multifaceted nature is like a Gemini can look at something and go, there's more than one way of looking at this. Look at all of these other facets of it. And so that gives the Gemini element this ability to navigate mystery, to navigate uncertainty, to just practice non-attachment, right? Just like, oh, I see you, Capricorn. You're like so fixed in this direction, but did you know there's like 12 other ways of looking at this? And able to see that. And I think that's what leadership needs right now, just in the world, of people to just be like, we don't actually know. Our entire society exists on the confirmation bias. And as people are opting out of that confirmation, things are starting to move around.
Definitely. And so that's a great point. And clearly we're seeing it. I do think it's going to have an interesting impact on government and leadership and how that moves forward.
I wonder too, because, it was 2020, we entered the age of Aquarius, which is all about like level hierarchies, right? Like we got into the next, however long it is, thousands of years, I believe.
Yeah. So technically it was 2012 that we entered into it. 2012, but we have bigger initiations along the way, depending on what Aquarius is doing. So 2012, and yeah, it's anywhere from a 2200 to 2400 year cycle. So yeah, over 2000 years. The last time we had it was when Jesus came to be, and Jesus kicked off the age of Pisces. And so the Piscean age, and the Piscean age was all about this idea of the guru is outside of you. Find your teacher, find the light, find someone that can connect you to God, which is what Jesus did, right? Jesus was a teacher, a prophet, and said, hey, check out the source, check out the sun, check out, God, whatever you want to call it. It just, what happens is along the way, it gets muddled. People want to capitalize it. People want to use it to create power, which I never, whether you believe in, however you believe in Jesus is how you believe in it. But I don't think he was, I think he was good intended. I think he was pure in that teaching of, they're the light. And, but towards the end, it got a little muddled. So then now that we're in the age of Aquarius and we're just in the baby stages of it, age of Aquarius is you are the guru. And we're going to make sure that there's technology to show you how. And we can see over the last 12 years how much technology has helped us understand who we are and give us access to different information and resources than ever before. Teachers, I mean, you and I right now, being able to have this conversation, and someone somewhere else in the world can literally be going on a walk listening to us right now. That is the age of Aquarius in its essence, the ability to use technology to help people have a better sense of who they are. And of course, there's going to be complications with that as well. But when we look at that theme, we can see that it's, I think, a really beautiful thing. Like, I very much live by the principles of the Aquarian age more than anything else. And sometimes people will say it's a little utopian, and it's like, okay, great. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, we get to choose where we send our focus. Where we send our focus is everything that comes to fruition. And so it's like, yeah, I get that too. I think there is some like spiritual like washing and bypassing, right, that we could be doing. And there's a power in saying, okay, yeah, this is happening, right? Like, and with the shift into the Aquarian age, the hierarchies, the structures that have upheld society are crumbling. And I think that's what we're seeing in the news is like, the people having power are grasping. You hold on the hardest before you let go. And so they're just holding on for dear life, trying to control things that they have no business controlling, truly. And so it's where we put our focus is what we're going to magnify. And so really letting us like power to the people really come up. That's what Aquarian age is.
That's the hope, right? The power is spread equally, as best as can be. And that would be a beautiful thing. I mean, even with technology and AI, like, everything has a light and a dark side. The beautiful thing about AI, like if it could be automated in such a way where it could take away some of our everyday stresses and take away jobs that we don't need anymore. What if we could all just show up and start contributing back to the earth, back to, our community, and like have more time for creativity? Like, I love thinking in that way because I believe that us even thinking in that way means it's possible. I mean, we look at sci-fi movies that are now our reality. Why? And so that's why, again, I agree. No spiritual bypassing, right? Like, recognize when you're being ignorant to what's going on, right? And being so self-centered that you're not focusing on what our current reality is. It's living in our current reality, being connected to it, being aware of it, and having moments to be like, well, what could it look like? What could be possible? Where could we, be this change? And because of the technology, we have more power than we realize than ever before. So please, like, use it before they figure it out.
Before they figure it out. Well, it's interesting because it's like in the psychedelic space, similar to the corporate space, like the most dangerous thing that you could say is like, because we've always done it this way, right? If people start asking, right, questions, like, for example, I don't know, the 8-hour, 5-day-a-week work week, right? It's just like, why do we do that? Well, because we've always done it that way. We had huge disruption with COVID. Now most people are working from home and going, actually, if I just sit here and focus, I can get my work done in this amount of time. And then I do have more time for family, more time for gardening, whatever it is. And getting out of that. And we have studies that show that actually the 4-day work week is the most productive work week.
It's true. And I think one thing too, that's I'm sure gets brought up in your treatments and what you do. Here's the sneaky part about all this. Let's say we do gain more time. Do we know what to do with it? If you were given a 4-hour or a 4-day work week, what would you be doing with that Friday or that Monday? Are you just sitting on your phone scrolling? Or are you actively making a choice to? And so I think that's also an interesting concept with all of it. If we were actually given more time, do we actually know how to utilize it?
Yeah, we got to know what to do with nice things if we're going to be given nice things.
Yeah. So I find that fascinating too, right? Like, we almost have to reprogram ourselves to even understand what does it mean to actually yeah, show up and be present.
Well, it's interesting because in my work, like ever since I started with hypnotherapy in 2018, it's we're so good at knowing what we don't want. And then you have someone that shows up and goes, okay, what do you want? Right? Like, oh, I want more time. Great. What do you want to do with that time? And then you see the brain just like trying to find an answer to that question, all the cross wiring.
Exactly. And then we find ourselves just, scrolling around and being like, wait, I didn't and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with social media. It can really help. I mean, there are videos I've seen that have literally given me such massive shifts or connected me with beautiful people. But again, it's about intention and why am I on here and for how long and whatnot. And yeah, what does it mean to sit down and read a book again?
Yeah. Or plant a garden or fly a kite.
Yes, or cook a meal, like really cook it, like like if that's what you enjoy, right? You don't have to go fly a kite if you don't want to. Look at me.
I did it. Where's my gold star?
Yeah, I'm enjoying my free time, but yeah, like how great though, how beautiful that gets to be your problem that you get to solve. How can I best utilize my time?
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to summarize. Know your sun sign and know that there's a whole bunch of other planets that are doing other things in your chart. So, but just get to know your sun sign better. Maybe your moon and your rising if you want to be in that conversation on your top three and just get a little bit more scope of like, oh, I'm different out in the world during the day than at night. So learn that. And then maybe find a reputable, time passages or the pattern, or find reputable sources. Don't go to chat for your astrological updates. We'll put your guide into the show notes. Yeah, we'll put your guide into the show notes.
And the guide's really easy. It's $29. It's very, user friendly.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I got it yesterday and I'm super excited to mess around with it this weekend. I'm such a fan of all of the work that you do, which is why I wanted to invite you onto the show. I've been on your newsletter. Everyone needs to be on Danielle's newsletter because you send really insightful emails that I actually enjoy reading.
Oh, good. I love to hear that. Yeah, I put a lot of time into my newsletter.
Good. Yeah, it shows. I like the forecast and I like your perspectives. So it's very smart and it's very well-rounded.
I received that.
Yeah. So okay, learn your sun sign, maybe your top three, figure out what the stars are doing, and then just be like, okay, what are the themes of this? And is this relevant to my life or not? And how can I use this for introspection, for self-reflection, and for healing and journey forward?
Exactly. How can this be another beautiful tool that I get to utilize to help navigate this life?
Yeah. And if you've never had a real person astrology reading, I highly recommend them. I've gotten one every year or so. I like to get one around my birthday time. So I have one with you next week. I'm so excited. And so, yeah, if you've never had an astrology reading, either get the guide and DIY it with chat or really just hire an astrologer to look at your chart and tell you some things that you wouldn't otherwise know about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think around your birthday is a great window to do it, maybe around the new year, whatever kind of feels most right. I think 1 to 2 times a year is good. I know sometimes that's a big question. How often should I be looking at my chart? How often should I be getting a reading? I say, yeah, 1 to 2 times a year and change it up. You don't always have to go to the same astrologer every time, just because that can also give you some nice perspective. For anyone that wants to book an astrology reading with me on the podcast, I do have a code for us all. It's podcast 10. 10. So podcast 10. You'll get 10% off any of my astrology readings. So yeah.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes as well.
As we do.
Yeah. Anything else you want to tell our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just, keep showing up. Trust that, we're all here for a reason, for good reason. And I know that sometimes it can feel sticky or strange or odd, or, even myself, I have moments where I'm like, why am I here? Right. But there's a reason. And I think we were all chosen to be. And if that's the case, then acknowledge that and honor that and realize you are a chosen one. You are here on purpose, for a purpose, and just trust the process and recognize that this life is about evolving, not having all the answers, not being always perfect, but just letting yourself evolve with the process and see how it all comes together, because that's kind of the best part.
Amen. And it gets to turn out better than you thought it was possible.
Always. I live for a sweet universe surprise.
Right? Good plot twist.
Oh, yeah. They're the best. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. And we'll have all of that information and just Such a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning into Ketamine Connections with me today. If this episode supported you, the best way to say thank you is by sharing it or leaving a review. And if you're enjoying the show and you want to connect more, I would love to see you on my newsletter. That is where I share behind the scenes insights, thoughtful guidance, and other parts of your ketamine journey. Never spam, always fun. And honestly, since getting kicked off of social media in 2024, it's where I share the real stuff. I share stories, tools, updates that I don't post anywhere else. So sign up at any of the links in the show notes and you'll be the first to know when I'm hosting live Q&A or when I'm doing other fun things that are not available anywhere else. It's the best place to hear about it, stay connected, and grow together. All right, that is all I have for today. Thank you. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.